Now, let me tell you all something. For a long time, I thought I knew what protecting women meant. I mean, come on. I was raised by a strong mama, married to strong women, raised daughters who could out-talk me any day of the week. So I thought I understood the whole conversation about feminism and empowerment. But man, the world will have you believe you know something until life shows you that you don't. I remember this one moment, clear as day. I was at this event years ago and somebody brought up Islam, and right away the whole room went quiet. You could feel it. One person said, "Tony Robbins, how can a religion that makes women cover up claim to respect them?" And I laughed, not because it was funny, because I used to think the exact same thing. I had this picture in my mind, like Muslim women were being silenced, hidden, controlled. That's what the media fed us, right? But then life put me in a room with real Muslim women, and I'm talking about strong women, doctors, business owners, teachers, mothers, women who had more peace in their eyes than I'd ever seen in Hollywood. And I remember one sister told me, "Brother Tony Robbins, we don't cover because men make us. We cover because God honors us." Well, and man, that line right there, that changed my whole perspective. See, I grew up thinking freedom was taking off restrictions. But what if freedom is knowing your worth without anybody else defining it for you? And I started realizing something. The same world that tells women you're free to wear whatever you want is the same world that'll judge you for not wearing enough. They'll say, be proud of your body, but they're the same ones selling that body on every billboard, every commercial, every clickbait ad. Tell me that's freedom. That's exploitation wearing a smile. I'll tell you something real, man. I've been in the entertainment business my whole life. I've seen how this world treats women like products. Change your hair, fix your nose, lose 10 pounds, show more skin, talk less, laugh quieter. And here's what's crazy. It's the same world that's out here saying feminism is about choice. But somehow that choice always seems to lead women right back into the same track, seeking validation from everybody but God. And then I opened the Quran and I started seeing a whole different message. Not about control, not about oppression, but about dignity. Islam says, you are not what the world sees, you are what God knows. Now that right there hit me, because in my line of work, everybody's watching. But that book said, don't you worry about what they see. Worry about what you are. And suddenly I got it. Islam don't hide women, it protects them. See, the Quran don't say don't let her speak, it says let her be honored. It don't say she's less than, it says she's a sign of my mercy. Man, I started reading verses that talked about mothers, wives, daughters, and the amount of reverence, the amount of love. I'd never seen that in any other text. And I realized Islam ain't trying to make women disappear, it's trying to make their value untouchable. Let me tell you something, man. In this world, when you got something precious like gold or diamonds, you don't leave it in the street for everybody to grab. You protect it, you cover it, not because it's weak, because it's worth too much. That's the part people don't understand. Now, I ain't saying every Muslim man out there gets it right. Let's be honest. There's men everywhere who mess it up. But the principle, the law of God, that's something else. That's what I fell in love with. It's like Islam said to me, Tony Robbins, stop trying to make women equal in the wrong way. Start respecting what makes them different. And that, y'all, that's what started my whole journey into understanding why Islam protects women better than this so-called modern feminism. See, the world tells women you got to act like a man to be powerful. But Islam says, be a woman, that's already powerful. And that's a truth I didn't even realize I was missing until I started listening instead of talking. Now, here's where it really got me. When I started reading about how Islam treats women, I realized this ain't about power, it's about purpose. See, in the West, we done made the word submission sound like slavery. We hear that word and right away we think control, weakness, obedience. But the Quran, it flips that whole idea. It says, submission ain't to a man, it's to God. And that's where the beauty begins. When a woman submits to God, she ain't saying I'm small. She's saying ain't nothing above me but him. You hear that? That's strength, not surrender. I remember sitting with this scholar in Dubai and I asked him straight, why does Islam separate roles between men and women? Why can't it all be the same? He smiled and said, brother Tony Robbins, if two people are identical, one of them ain't necessary. Man, that line hit me like a gospel chord because I've been married long enough to know me and my wife. Don't work because we the same. We work because we complement each other. And that's what Islam be preaching all along. Balance, not competition. See, feminism told women, you can do anything a man can do, but Islam said you can do what no man can do. Man, when I read how the Prophet Muhammad spoke about women, I couldn't believe it. He said, the best of you are those who are best to their wives. Now, come on, y'all. This was 1,400 years ago. That's before equal rights was even a phrase. Before hashtags, before movements, before laws, Islam was already saying if you mistreat a woman, you're failing as a man. I started learning that a woman in Islam has her own identity, her own money, her own property, and can't nobody take that from her. Her father can't touch it, her husband can't spend it, her brother can't control it. She chooses who she marries. She keeps her last name. She can own land, run a business, even go to court and speak on her own behalf in a world that was still treating women like shadows. You tell me that ain't empowerment, that's protection and respect. Now, let's talk about protection for a second. In Islam, protection don't mean confinement. It means responsibility. A man is commanded to provide, to guard, to lead with mercy. If his wife works, that's her choice, but her comfort, that's his duty. You see, in this modern world, we tell women, you don't need no man. And look, I get the independence talk. I respect that. But let me tell you something. When you turn protection into shame, you leave people unprotected. And that's what we're doing now. Now, I remember talking to this young Muslim sister, brilliant girl, born and raised in America. She told me, Tony Robbins, the hardest part about wearing hijab ain't the cloth. It's dealing with people who don't understand it. And I said, baby, that's the same with faith. Everybody's comfortable with your belief until your belief starts showing. See, what Islam did for her was give her identity a shield, not from men, but from the noise. The noise that says you ain't enough. The noise that says be prettier. The noise that says fit in. And she looked me dead in the eye and said, when I wear it, Tony Robbins, I remember who I am and who I answer to. Man, I felt that. That's freedom. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. When I first started studying this stuff, I had questions. I said, why does Islam have rules about marriage, modesty, family? And you know what one scholar told me? He said, because God loves women enough to protect them from men's desires and even from their own pain. That one took me out. Because think about it. This whole world sells women pain dressed up as pleasure. They say sleep around, you're free. They say expose yourself, you're bold. They say forget family, chase success. And yet so many women tell you deep down, I feel empty, I feel unseen. Islam said you ain't supposed to carry that emptiness. It said you're not a toy, you're a trust. That's the part that made me stop reading and just sit there quiet. And the more I read, the more I realize feminism is trying to fix what men broke. But Islam fixed it before men even knew it was broken. It didn't wait for a movement. It came with a message. Honor her, protect her, educate her, respect her. And get this, the first person to believe in Prophet Muhammad was a woman, Khadijah. May Allah be pleased with her, his supporter, his partner, his strength. She was the first Muslim. And when she passed away, the Prophet cried for her for years. Tell me that's not love. Tell me that's not respect. Man, when I read that, I said, this ain't oppression. This is elevation. And the irony hit me that the world that calls Islam backward is the same world that can't even figure out how to make women feel safe walking home at night. That ain't progress. That's pretending. See, feminism argues about equality. Islam lives equality through accountability. Ain't nowhere the same. We're sacred in different ways. And I don't care who you are, you can't build peace on competition. You build it on complement. Now, here's what really touched me. I saw how Muslim men treat their mothers. Every time they talk about them, they say, may Allah have mercy on her. Every prayer, every dua, they include their mama. And then I came across a saying from the Prophet. A man came to him asking, who deserves my kindness? The most? The Prophet said, your mother. The man asked again, then who? He said, your mother. Then who? Your mother. And only the fourth time did he say, then your father. Man, I almost threw the book across the room. I said, that's what I'm talking about right there. Ain't no religion in the world lifted a mother that high. That's real feminism. That's divine feminism. You know, after all that learning, all that reading, all that questioning, it hit me one night like a wave. I couldn't stop. I was sitting alone just thinking about my mama, and I thought about how she raised me, how she prayed over me when we didn't have nothing, how she smiled even when her world was falling apart. And I remembered that in Islam, they say paradise lies at the feet of your mother. And I just sat there, man, quiet. Because that's the most beautiful sentence I ever heard in my life. Paradise. Not in the sky, not behind the curtain, but right there at her feet. Tell me that ain't poetry. Tell me that ain't divine truth. It made me think how many times this world tells us success is about money, titles, followers. But Islam says you want to get to heaven, go kiss your mama's feet. Now, that's real direction. That's manhood defined. That's leadership through humility. And it started changing how I saw every woman I know. My daughters, I used to think my job was to make them strong, independent, confident. But now I realize my job is to make sure they never forget how valuable they already are. The world would try to sell them worth, but God already gave it to them. See, Islam don't tell women become valuable. It tells men recognize your value. That's a big difference. And my wife, Marjorie, I remember sitting with her one night and I said, you know, baby, Islam say the man who treats his wife best is the best man in the eyes of God. And she smiled at me and said, well, baby, sounds like you got some work to do. And I said, you're right, I do. But that's what I love about it. It ain't a rule book to shame you. It's a mirror to fix you. And listen, I ain't out here trying to preach. I'm just telling you all what I found. The deeper I went into Islam, the more I realized this religion don't just protect women from men. It protects men from themselves. It keeps you in check. It reminds you, hey, you don't own her, you owe her. And that line right there changed me. I had this conversation with a young brother in London, born Muslim, but struggling with his faith. He said, Tony Robbins, it's hard to be a man these days. Everybody expects you to lead, but nobody teaches you how. And I told him, brother, Islam already told you. Lead with mercy, lead with justice, lead like the prophet who used to mend his own clothes, cook his own food, and serve his family. And that boy just looked at me, eyes teary, and said, I didn't even know that, man. I said, now you do. Go home and love your man. Mama. And here's what breaks me. We live in a world that screams women empowerment, but still profits off women's pain. Makeup brands, fashion, music, all of it built on insecurity. They tell you be free, but then they sell you a new cage every season. And then I open the Quran and it says, do not grieve. Indeed, Allah is with you. That ain't just words, that's comfort, that's safety. And I saw that safety in Muslim women. I saw that confidence, that peace that don't come from compliments, it comes from conviction. I remember watching a group of sisters pray in Mecca and it was quiet, man. No cameras, no noise, no attention, just stillness. And I thought, this is what the world been missing. That sacred stillness, that knowing who you are. And here's the truth. I used to think Islam was about restriction, but it's about redirection. It don't take your freedom, it gives your freedom a purpose. That's why when I look at how it honors women, I don't see rules. I see protection, I see peace, I see balance. You know how we always say behind every great man, there's a great woman. Islam says beside every great man, there's a woman of honor. That's partnership, not hierarchy. Now, I ain't telling y'all to agree with me. I'm just telling you after everything I seen, everything I studied, everything I felt, Islam made me realize something this world forgot. You don't have to compete to be equal. You just got to be true to what you were made to be. And when men and women both do that, that's when society gets healed. That's when families stand strong. That's when communities stop breaking down. That's when love stops being temporary. And look, I don't know what God got planned for me, but I know this. The more I learn about Islam, the more I see divine wisdom in things we ignore. I'm still learning, still growing, still listening. But now every time I see a Muslim woman in hijab and prayer and strength, I don't see oppression. I see a crown that the world just don't understand. And I say to myself, man, God really knows how to protect what he loves. That's when you realize Islam ain't trying to make women less. It's trying to remind men they ain't more. And that, my brothers and sisters, is what true respect looks like.